Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome to this week's edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. Here we are a few days away from the Revolution pay-per-view for AEW. The next big show here in 2023. We already had the Royal Rumble Premium Live event. And now we got Revolution here coming up in a couple of nights. A Sunday night pay-per-view. Kind of old school vibe with that, but I definitely prefer these Saturday night shows, but you know, you do what you gotta do. WrestleMania this year will be a Saturday and Sunday night affair, so it's not too big of a deal, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. You can follow this podcast at juicysteen.podbean.com. You can also go to my wrestling t-shirt Instagram account. That is at Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram for that material. And to promote that even further, beginning this Saturday, I will be posting one t-shirt a day from my collection for the 30 Days of Wrestling Tees hashtag that everybody in the community likes to throw out there up until WrestleMania. It's a nice little exercise of what do you got, what kind of passions are you into, and when it comes to wrestling shirts and memorabilia. And I always like throwing in some of my specific shirts that I prefer over others, but it's a great showcase for 30 straight days of wrestling shirts from the entire community. So hashtag 30 Days of Wrestling t-shirts should be a fun one once again. And yeah, so you can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. I said that already. Double dipping here. I think, as always, as it pertains to preview shows and prediction shows go, this episode will probably be a shorter one. But as I said that last time, it was upwards of 50 minutes, so who really knows? A lot of interesting stuff. This past week, we'll touch on as much as we can, and then we'll dive into the Revolution predictions, which will take up, I would hope, the majority of the final portions of this program. Because right now on the WWE side of things, you know, some things have happened, but in the grand scheme of things, we are just trying to get to WrestleMania, especially on some fronts that have been widely criticized, and we'll see where that takes us on this program. I would like to, however, delve into a little This Week in Wrestling History, and yes, we are in March, but it is not a March event that I'm going to tap into today or this week. Well, we might do that next week, of course. But this week, a decade ago, us wrestling fans were treated to quite possibly, and I would argue, the greatest match in Raw history, which featured John Cena versus CM Punk for the number one contendership to The Rock's WWE title. That match was going to take place at WrestleMania 29. A lot of people, including myself, would have liked to have seen a triple threat match between Punk, Cena, and Rock, where you could have had the same outcome and it wouldn't have taken away from any other portions of the match. But they wanted to get twice in a lifetime in there, so they did, and that's what we got. But we wouldn't have been maybe graciously served in this incredible match on Raw, I believe February 25th, 2013. I remember where I was sitting. I remember I was in my college dorm room, and I was in awe. This is the match where Cena hit a Hurricane Rana. This is a match where CM Punk hit Cena with a pile driver, which has been a long time banned move in pro wrestling, at least on the WWE side. And for Punk to hit it on Cena, it was almost as if, what are you gonna do? You gonna fire Punk? You gonna fire Cena? These are two of your top guys. You're not gonna do that. And these guys just put on. I would say it's the greatest match in Raw history. So that was 10 years ago today. I really can't believe that. What an incrinculant match and circumstance that was. And WrestleMania 29 overall really wasn't that great, I don't think, but the lead up to it was really strong. That match you had the Punk Taker stuff with the urn, the unfortunate passing of Paul Bearer. I enjoyed quite a bit of the stuff from 29. However, the show, at least leading up to 29, but the show wasn't that great. Man, Fandango defeated Chris Jericho. That tells you a lot. But 29 was an interesting show. I think 39 is going to be a little bit better. We'll get to that. Let's delve into some WWE stuff as we progress. Again, the Revolution predictions should be the final thing I do for this program today. Again, but on Raw, a big Raw main event, which saw Trish Stratus returning to help Becky Lynch and Lita win the women's tag team titles, which is a pretty cool moment, I have to say. And it seems like we're setting up potentially 2 matches, at least 1 match. I believe that if we don't get a 6-woman tag between Damage Control versus Lita, Becky, and Trish, I think there's a strong outside chance, because there's 2 nights of WrestleMania and they really want to make sure that they maximize the time for those shows, that we will get Damage Control, which would be Io Sky and Dakota Kai, challenging Becky Lynch and Lita for the women's tag titles again, maybe a stipulation thrown in there. And in a separate match, I personally would love to see Trish Stratus versus Bayley. I think that is an interesting contrast of styles, of characters. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe we saw Trish versus Charlotte at a SummerSlam. If I am correct, I'm going to do a little research. Yeah, 2019 SummerSlam, we had Trish and Charlotte, which I thought was a damn good match for Trish, not wrestling in a long time. I'd love to see her versus Bayley. I think it would be another great matchup in Clash of Styles in a good way. But yeah, Trish coming out, and I loved all that stuff. It just seemed that it was right at the edge of Raw. Like, Raw was just about to close, and they made it all happen. So that was cool. I'll highlight some other stuff that happened on Raw. Judgment Day cutting a promo. Man, again, so speaking of Charlotte, seems like Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, their match, I keep forgetting almost that they had a match at Mania 36 in the COVID Mania where no fans were there. This is a shot to really rectify what could have been a great content. It was a good match, but to have the fans there and have the characters at this level, I think will really make the match better, and I think Rhea's going to end up taking the title. We will get to those predictions as we get closer to WrestleMania, which happens a month from today. If you're listening to this on Friday, which I'm sure everybody is, if you even do listen to this program, but I've recorded it on Thursday, March 2nd, so technically, if it's a Sunday, it's a month away. It's semantics. Asuka and Bianca Belair seem to be, getting revved up for their match. Seth Rollins was on Miz TV. FaceTimed Logan Paul. A great segment. Seth Rollins is such a great character right now. His music has been over, but it's more than just his music. He is so over. And I'll say it right now. I'll probably bring this up every week as we get closer to the WrestleMania show on April 1st and 2nd. But I think Seth Rollins and Logan Paul, I'm making the prediction right now, it will steal the show at WrestleMania. I think Seth Rollins and Logan Paul are going to have the best match either night at WrestleMania. I'm taking those bets right now. I just have a lot of good feelings about where Logan Paul is in his career with the matches that he's had, the minimal time he's had as a character, yet his big moments with Roman, his big matches with Miz, Roman, etc., his interference at Chamber, combined with the fact that as much as he is such a natural heel, he wants to be cheered so bad, but when you're facing Seth Rollins, really there's no chance that you are going to be the face in that situation, especially right now. Again, with the music, with Seth having all this momentum, and I think the athleticism and just the way these guys work in the ring and wrestle each other, I think Seth and Logan are going to have an unreal match, and I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to talk about it more in depth as we get closer to that pay-per-view, premium live event. We had Bobby Lashley. Now this is where we get some interesting stuff. Bobby Lashley defeats Elias. That was whatever, but Lashley warned Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt did the Muscle Man dance song and made fun of Bob. In the same breath, Brock Lesnar accepted the challenge from MVP to wrestle Omos at WrestleMania. I really don't know what else to say. Everybody's been having these issues with, is Triple H really running things? Would Vince have made a match like Omos versus Brock? Or better yet, would Triple H have made this match? My thinking is no. I don't think. I think it's a couple of things. First of all, let's go to the Bray segment, Bray and Bobby Lashley. I don't hate the match, like the matchup between Bobby Lashley and Bray Wyatt. However, I don't think there's much in way of storytelling with this program. I think it's more or less just, let's make fun of, Muscle Man. They had the Muscle Man dance earlier in the Firefly Funhouse as a previous thing for Bray. And now it's just like a tool to utilize to piss Bobby Lashley off to get to this match. But I think it's just more of, we have nothing for either of these guys, and we want to get Omos a match, so we can't have Lesnar. We can't keep Lesnar there. We have to take him away. These two guys, by that default, would face each other, and I think that's what we're going to get with Bray and Bobby. Now, again, I don't think the match itself will be bad, but I have a lot of reservations about the story going forward, as if it will really come to fruition in a solid way or not, creatively. And then, so the Omos, I almost said Omos, but Omos versus Brock Lesnar of it all. It has been said that Lesnar was pitched a match against Bray Wyatt and declined it. AKA, that doesn't work for me, brother. And I feel bad for Bray. In the same breath, I don't blame Brock for not wanting the match against Bray. Because, again, what type of story are you going to get? You're going to get a lot of mysterious, just out of left field, Papa Shango, Taker in 94, weird stuff. And it might not lead to anything. And Brock Lesnar doesn't do that. He sells pay-per-views, he sells matches, he sells stories by physicality and what he's going to do and who he's in there with and making big moments. And I think Omos could be that moment. But I don't know if it's the moment. I think this is a case of Vince McMahon getting into Triple H's ear and almost saying, hey, we've done the irresistible force versus immovable object, Khali, Kane, Hogan, Andre. We even did Braun Omos. I think it's in Saudi a couple of times ago. Let's do Brock and Omos, Let's give Omos a shot on the main stage. And look, if I'm Omos, I am loving that I get a match with Brock Lesnar, and it's going to be at WrestleMania. John Moxley, formerly Dean Ambrose, he had a match with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and it was supposed to be and could have been an incredible, incredible match, but it was not, and it was lame. And everybody was disappointed. And at least with this match, there might not be that much anticipation. So the bar will be set so low that maybe they'll pull something out. Look, I think if they give Lesnar and Omos 5, 6 minutes, 7 minutes maybe, that, they could hit some big moves. Lesnar can hit it at 5 or 2. Give Omos some offense, I don't think it has to be a squash. And I think you can make something out of the match. Will it happen? I don't know. But it just seems that it's too much of a Vince creative move. It's tough for me to buy that Vince is not having some sort of, final say as it pertains to what goes on creatively. And I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or not. But we'll see. Maybe hit a huge F5. I don't know. Cody defeated Chad Gable in a hell of a match with a great crossroads. Roman's going to be on SmackDown tonight or tomorrow night, whenever you're hearing this. And Cody's going to be there. Now, SmackDown next Friday will be in Pittsburgh. So that will be a different type of SmackDown experience. Next week, I'll be covering more of what happened during the week and potentially previewing my time going to SmackDown with whatever that entails. And then the following show... Well, and it'll have the some reactions and review to what happened at Revolution, plus the Dynamite after Revolution. But it will also, the following week will be a recap of, because, look, I do this show on Thursdays. I record it on Thursdays. It's the easiest way, the best way for me to record. So I record on Thursdays, put it out Friday. Now, that clearly means I neglect, to an extent, what happens on SmackDown on Fridays because it comes out Friday morning. I don't even get a chance to do any sort of SmackDown review or anything about that show until the following Thursday, 6 days later. Kind of unfair, but I think Raw and Dynamite are the two biggest focus shows that I need to be taking a look at. So until SmackDown becomes the A show like it did in 2017, I think we're going to have this show like it is. But with me going to SmackDown next Friday, it being in Pittsburgh, I will be discussing that in greater depth the following show, which would come out on the 17th. So that's what you have to look forward to there. If you, again, are even looking forward to it, I don't know. But that should be fun. always looking forward to some fun fun shows coming into Pittsburgh, and SmackDown was here in December. Had a great time, and I think this time, as we get closer to WrestleMania, it's always fun. Looking forward to it. So that is that. It was announced that The Miz is going to be the host of WrestleMania this year. I think it's a great choice. I would have personally preferred LA Knight to get a chance to do this this whole thing. Now, because LA Knight, first of all, his name's LA. They're in LA. It's an easiest, obvious thing. However, The Miz is a movie star, and LA is his home, away from home, and I think he'll kill it. He hosted the Diva Search. He can host this. So I think it'll be good. I don't know if it's going to lead to anything storyline wise, but you just don't know. Miz has nothing really going on at the moment, but he could have something going on as we get closer. But like I said, I would have thought it'd been cool to have LA Knight there to get him some time to really be a character, become something, instead of just a guy that has catchphrases that remind you of other previous stars. So yeah. As I go over some of the other stuff that has happened over the course of the week, I stated this. I put this out on Twitter. I thought this would be a cool idea. Purely based on Alter Bridge having a show on one of the nights, but not the other night. I think it would be so cool if Alter Bridge got to play Edge's theme song as live for a WrestleMania entrance, and then just kept that group out there, and then played the Judgment Day's theme that they also do live for WrestleMania, which would be unprecedented, having one group doing both songs for both groups, which would be really cool to see. And I don't know. I just think it'd be really badass if they could pull that off. I think seems like they're booked on the 1st. Yes, I think they're open. They could do things on the 2nd, which would be Sunday. So if you want to have that match on a Sunday, you could totally do that for sure. Last night, Dynamite was interesting, to say the least. Christian Cage. We got a lot of just random stuff that kind of fluttered up. Over the course of last night. Last night seemed like a mishmash go-home show that led, into the pay-per-view with a, bizarre Chris Jericho, Peter Avalon match that I didn't know why it was needed to be there. Orange Cassidy defeated Big Bill. And they got a lot with Big Bill, and I really hope they don't mess him up going forward. I really think that he could be a star in AEW if given the right creative direction, and we'll see where that goes. This is a big moment that he had against Orange Cassidy, but we'll see where he goes. He's an imposing figure. We'll see what happens. Toni Storm and Rio, I thought, was good. Love Rio. Think she's a great in-ring performer. And I do enjoy Toni Storm's work as well. And I thought they had a great match. We had Hook and Matt Hardy square off for the FTW title. And it was really cool seeing Hook in there with Matt Hardy, as Taz, his father, had been in the ring with both Hardy Boys previously in his career. So it shows you the longevity of the Hardys, specifically Matt Hardy in this case, and the future in Hook. And Hook, of course, getting the win there. We had a Christian Cage promo, which is now going to lead into a match. Now we're going to get a no-holds-barred match at AEW Revolution this Sunday with Christian Cage versus Jack Perry. No holds barred. So that will be a fun gimmick match, to say the least. And as we get to the pay-per-view, quite loaded with gimmick matches, as it were. And even so, we still had a gimmick match. We had 2 gimmick matches on Dynamite this past week with a Casino Tag Team Battle Royale and the Face of the Revolution ladder match. The Tag Battle Royal, honestly, was clunky. I don't know why it needed to even be there. This is a small thing, but I'll kind of just drop it in here. Has anybody noticed that the win-loss totals and everything kind of just faded away with AEW? Because I have, and it doesn't seem like they're coming back. Don't know what that means. Don't know if they're trying to retool it. Don't know if they're going to try to come up with something better. Or maybe just reformat it. But it's a new year and there's nothing. So it seems like they're just kind of rolling with stories. And maybe that's better. I like the idea of, wins and losses mattering. And making a difference. And this is why they're number one contender. And like reasons and stakes and things to matter for shows and stories. But I think more often than not it get convoluted when so many people are having so many matches, and there's Dark Elevation, there's Rampage, there's Dynamite, there's going to be AEW All Access, there's pay-per-views. There's so much AEW programming, it's tough to keep track. And God, I could not imagine being the guy that has to keep track of records for AEW. Maybe he's out of a job now. But in that Tag Team Battle Royale, the final team that made it into the Fatal 4-Way was, in fact, Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. Again, we'll get to the predictions for this show here very shortly, but I don't know why this couldn't have gone to the Lucha Bros or Top Flight or the Blackpool Combat Club. There's so many different teams that if you're going to do a Fatal 4-Way, does it really matter who's in it? Probably not. But they gave it to Danhausen and Orange Cassidy, so they're definitely not going to win. And in the Face of the Revolution ladder match, easy for me to say, Takeshita and Sammy Guevara and Eddie Kingston, this is an 8-man ladder match. This thing was insane. Takeshita hit a blue thunderbomb off the top of a ladder. Commodore, who is out of nowhere, doing crazy spots last night. Sammy Guevara doing crazy stuff as well. But in the end, it was the hometown man, Powerhouse Hobbs, winning the Sonic Gold ring. And he will get a shot next Wednesday against the winner of Joe Wardlow at the pay-per-view for that TNT title. Whoever wins that match will face Hobbs on Dynamite. So we'll see. Potentially maybe a schmoz and we get a 3-way at Dynamite, which would be interesting. Those 3 guys are big, big men. I would not mind seeing a triple threat between the 3. Man, that ladder match. Some people are critical of when Hobbs is up there on the ladder trying to grab the ring, and there's all these referees holding the bottom of the ladder. Some fans are complaining, wow, it's so unrealistic. Why would the referees help the guy out? And it's like, okay, look, we try to suspend disbelief as wrestling fans. I'm one of the biggest proponents of suspending their disbelief. I watch horror movies. I watch reality TV. I watch extremely scripted TV. I watch live sports. I see every different perspective of all these different forms of entertainment. And when it comes to things to where I have to suspend my disbelief because I know where it's coming from production-wise, you gotta know that you want to keep your wrestlers safe. I don't care if there's 90 referees holding the ladder so that Hobbs can stand up there and grab the ring. It's better than another wrestler holding the ladder, you know? It's something. Otherwise, you're just going to have wrestlers who, quite frankly, maybe shouldn't be going up the ladder, I guess. You know, you could argue that as well. But these ladders are very dangerous, and you don't want something dangerous like that and very unpredictable to ruin, potentially hurt one of your top stars because you wanted to have a high spot that, well, we don't want the referees holding them. It looks too phony, so I guess we're just going to have Hobbs fall off the top of the ladder. Oh, well. Like, that's such a stupid way of thinking, so I don't care. The referees on the ladder doesn't bother me at all. I mean, what are you going to do? Everything else is off without a hitch. Let's be safe, okay? It's wrestling. Get over it. So, this leads us into the final 10 minutes or so here on this show. Here on the Juice Box. I think this is episode 8. And it's pretty interesting that we're almost here at episode 10, but we've gotten to cover the Royal Rumble. Now we're going to cover Revolution. It was kind of a goal to start this podcast at the beginning of the year so that I could kind of get my bearings accordingly recording and have WrestleMania as that, you know, not an end goal as where I want to be like settled in, but WrestleMania season is always the most exciting time of year. So I figure, what the hell? You get this thing started, we'll progress through, and WrestleMania can be a great, you know, big show to discuss as a way to kind of get the show going. But I didn't even realize that during the whole time leading up until WrestleMania that we're going to get Revolution, Raw 30, Royal Rumble, potential sale of WWE, Vince McMahon chaos, you know, all this stuff leading up to it. So it's been fun for these first 8, and I cannot wait to do more. Let's get into the predictions for AEW Revolution. Once again, this will be Sunday night, March 5th, 8 p.m. from the Chase Center in San Francisco. Earlier, already stated, Christian Cage versus Jungle Boy Jack Perry in a no-holds-barred match. This is going to be interesting. I think that Jack Perry... Look, Christian's coming back from injury, although I don't think he needs to win this match. I think you finally get Jack Perry over the hump here. He hesitated and did not hit Christian with the concerto last week, therefore hurting him in the long run and making him not that killer instinct that he needs to get to go forth. I think he gets that killer instinct, and I think Jack Perry wins this no-holds-barred match. We've got a trios match for the AEW Trios title. The Elite, Kenny Omega, Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, versus Malachi Black, Brody King, Buddy Matthews, the House of Black, with Julia Hart, of course, in their corner. And now, will she be the Joker in all of this? Could she potentially be that outlier that causes some potential hardship for the Elite? Could Julia Hart cost the Elite? Or will Julia Hart cost her own team? I don't know what is going forward with the trios titles. It is a very difficult division to dissect when there's only 2, 3, maybe even 4 solidified 3-man teams. House of Black, the Elite, Blackpool Combat Club, Death Triangle, like that. Other than that, you're just taking 3 guys of a larger group and making them a trio. So these are always tough. I think the Elite win this. I think the Elite take these titles at least to Double or Nothing, where they will... I don't know who they'll face. I don't know. Who knows what will happen. We got that. We got Forbidden Door 2 potentially coming in the summer. So there's a lot of stuff that could be happening with the trios titles. Give me the Elite. I'm looking forward to this. Ruby Soho, Saraya, and Jamie Hayter, triple threat, AEW Women's World Title. Give me Jamie Hayter. I'm a hater all the way. I don't think the other two have any need for a championship at this moment. However, if Britt decides for some reason that she doesn't want Jamie Hayter as champion anymore, we might have a new champion crowned. And if that's the case, I say Saraya would win it, but I think Britt is the only way that Jamie Hayter doesn't win this match. Ricky Starks versus Chris Jericho in a singles match where the JAS is banned from ringside. I think Jericho gets 99.9% of the heat in this match, and Ricky Starks ends up taking it. I think Ricky Starks is on the cusp of becoming a huge, huge star, and I think this is potentially the catalyst for all of that. I think a huge win over Jericho would boost him in an incredible way, in a big way, and I do. I really think that Starks could be AEW World Champion, and I could see him in a promo with MJF going forward. So give me Ricky Starks. We got Samoa Joe and Wardlow for the AEW TNT title. This title has been passed around a couple of times. Darby Allin is the guy who's held it a few times now, and we get 2 big Haas guys fighting it out, with the winner getting Powerhouse Hobbs the following Wednesday on Dynamite. The story here is that the hair from Wardlow was taken unceremoniously, and it pissed him off, and this is a chance to win this title. I think Joe wins this match in a tricky way, and eventually faces Hobbs and loses to Hobbs, because I think Wardlow, much like Ricky Starks, has a date with MJF as MJF is champion, and I do believe that he needs to get a shot at that title before MJF's run is said and done, and for that to happen, Wardlow just should not be the TNT champion. Therefore, give me Samoa Joe. Texas Death Match. My personal favorite. Halloween Havoc 1993. 30th anniversary coming up this October. Vader. Cactus Jack. Spin the wheel. Make the deal. Hell of a Texas Death Match. Great concept. Sunday, though, we get Jon Moxley versus Hangman Adam Page in a Texas Death Match. Look, Jack Perry and Christian Cage is going to be no holds barred, but if there's one thing you can count on, death, taxes, and Jon Moxley bleeding, this match is going to be insane. I'm just going to flat out say Adam Page is taking this. I think Hangman needs a huge win on pay-per-view. I think a match against Moxley and a big win against Moxley on pay-per-view would be so needed for his character. And maybe Moxley gets some time off after this, deservedly so. And I really think you give Hangman Adam Page the match here, and he could be in contention for MJF's title as well. And I know I've said that about Ricky Starks, and I've said that about Wardlow, but these are guys that could go against MJF. Doesn't mean MJF's going to retain against all of them. Doesn't mean that he couldn't lose against any of them, But I think Hangman for sure takes this match. But expect a brutal match. Nothing short of that. We've got an AEW Fatal 4-Way Tag Team title match. Guns, The Acclaimed. Personally, one of my favorite little teams, Triple J, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal, and then Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. Tag titles on the line. Personally, I thought this should be The Acclaim versus the Guns. I was wrong. Let's do a 4-Way. I think there's also a shot that FTR could make an appearance and really throw the tag division for a spin. But I say The Acclaimed regain their titles back in this match. I think it's only right. But with the other teams in the match, I could see the Guns. You know what? I'm switching my pick. I'm picking the Guns to defeat any other team other than the Acclaimed to retain their titles, because that's what they do. Main event. 60-minute Iron Man match. AEW World Title. This is fun. I think this could be really fun. I've been saying it for weeks. We get MJF as the cowardly heel. He would never want to do a 60-minute Iron Man match for his title, let alone against quite arguably the greatest wrestler of our generation in Bryan Danielson. I think there's a couple of ways you could go about this match. I think you could go the 1-0 route. And with a 1-0 match, you could have MJF be a coward. You could have him running around. You could have him go in the ring, out of the ring. Anything it takes to try to stave off a fall. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think you're going to get a shootout. I think you're going to get a 5-4, maybe 4-3 type match. I think you're going to get falls such as MJF being the dastardly heel, hitting Danielson with a chair or something, or even the ring on purpose, his Dynamite diamond ring, on purpose, get a disqualification, go down a fall just to pin Danielson and get a fall, and maybe get a second fall to go up a fall and have the momentum going forward. I think you could have a long Danielson submission with MJF to where he doesn't want to submit and he passes out potentially, but he didn't really pass out. He kind of faked it, so he would lose the fall but take some time away and then capitalize on Danielson. Man, I think you could see some interference here. I think you could see Adam Cole make an appearance and cause some havoc. I don't know what is going to happen, but I tell you this. People say, fans will argue that the 60-minute Iron Man match at WrestleMania 12 between Bret and Shawn Michaels is the greatest Iron Man match of all time. I say nay. Hell, I saw Bragging Rights 2009 with Randy Orton and John Cena in a 60-minute Iron Man match, and I thought that was more entertaining than the Bret-Shawn match in 96. And I get it. It was 96. It was experimental. It was something we really haven't seen before. It was two Mount Rushmore type talents in ring going at it. It's a story that could never be told again, but specifically with those two guys. Peaks of their careers. An entrance like no other, but the match was 1-0 and it went to overtime. A 60-minute Iron Man match should have a lot of action. It should have brief stall periods just to get to the next big spot. And I think you should have a definitive winner after 60 minutes. Although I would not be shocked if it did go to overtime or potentially a tie with some controversy. Because anything with MJF, you could come with some controversy. Or Danielson. Hell, he said the F word on Dynamite last week. So we'll see. But I think when it's all said and done, even after this goes 60, even if MJF is bloodied, I think the winner, the survivor, and he's better than everybody, and you all know it, Maxwell Jacob Friedman will win this match and retain his AEW World title in a bloody match. I think this has blood too. I think MJF gets a lot of color, and I think it's a hell of a war, but it's going to be a career-defining match for MJF. I don't see any other way around it. You get 60 minutes with one of the greatest wrestlers of our time, and I don't think MJF's going to squander this opportunity like that. I think he's going to rise to the occasion and even exceed my expectations or a lot of other fans' expectations going into this match. I'm sure not a lot of people think he can really go that distance just in the scope of cardio or being in shape in general or having enough to get these spots in, get a great match in with a guy like Danielson. But I think MJF is on another level. I do. I think he's got a mix of 1999 Rock and 1986 Flair. I think they're on two both of these guys are on such a level right now. I think that there's no way this match isn't the best match of the show. And I think it's going to be a great, great performance by both. But again, I think MJF takes this and retains the title. So, we'll go through once more. I think Jack Perry wins. I think the Elite take the Trios title match. Give me Jamie Hayter, but if anyone's going to win this match, it's not her. I think it's Saraya. Ricky Starks, Wardlow, Hangman in a bloody, bloody affair against Moxley. I think Paige wins. I think the Guns pin Orange Cassidy or Danhausen. And then MJF somehow, some way retains his AEW World Championship. And with that being said, this has been another episode of The Juice Box. I'm Juice Springsteen. Next week will be a recap of the AEW Revolution pay-per-view, a little preview of my festivities for SmackDown next week on the 10th in Pittsburgh, and more as we continue to pave this road to WrestleMania. But before that, we got a little AEW Revolution. So I hope you guys enjoy the show this Sunday. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Once again, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, my wrestling shirt Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. This podcast, juicysteen.podbean.com. Rate and review this on iTunes podcast. 5 stars, that would be fantastic. And anytime you want to chat, follow me on Twitter. Let's chat about it. Let's argue about it. Let's discuss wrestling. I'm Juice Springsteen. This has been The Juice Box, and I'll see you guys next week. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.